Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Yara Banks, entrepreneur, leadership strategist, and author of the executive blind spot transforming HR into a profit driving powerhouse. Welcome to the show, Yara.
Good morning. How are you? Hello. Good day. How about that?
Welcome. Very good morning to you too. Here in India, it's evening time, but it's very nice to learn about morning and wish each other. Though we are time difference, but the leadership principles and the HR principles almost remain the same. We'll talk about all these things, Yara. But before that, let's understand, a bit about your background, your journey, so that the audience learns a bit more about who they are listening to.
Absolutely. So I am the owner of and founder of BNX Business Advisors. And what we are is an integrative HR consultant. So what I mean by that is we take the business side of things and identify ways in which the people, which is an organization's biggest asset, can play into the organizational goals as a whole. Oftentimes what we find out is organizations have their strategic goals, and then they have their people goals, and sometimes they're not in alignment through communication, through organizational structures. The end goal just doesn't get communicated all the way down. And so we want to be able to talk to the business side of it, meaning your balance sheet, your processes, your continuous improvement, your workflow, but we also want to tie that into how do your people, your biggest assets, play a role in that. So for myself, I have over 20 years of combined operations and HR experience in multiple different industries and multiple different sizes. So I take a lot of pieces, lessons learned from each project that I work on as a consultant, or the experience I've had in the past before being a consultant, and tie that together to come up with the best possible outcome, both for the executives in the organization as a whole, but also making it a more productive workplace for the employees.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's understand first thing. You call yourself a self-proclaimed fixer of leadership headaches. What does this mean? What headaches do leaders have, and you fix them?
Sure. So headaches would be the biggest one I could think of a lot of times when I go into organizations is people say middle management. So the executives say middle management are the problem, and then the employees say middle management are the problem. Well, some of the headaches that are incurred in that area that make it seem as though middle management is the problem is communication. We're not communicating. We don't have communication channels that are clear about what it is we're trying to do with the organization. So it may go to middle management and stop there, or it may come from the bottom and stop at middle management, but there's not a clear roadmap for communication within the organization. So that's a big headache. A lot of times people will do like annual surveys for employee satisfaction and whatnot. And people will say, well, we need to do A, B, and C. And then the executives will look at the results and go, well, we already do this, and we already do that, and we already do this. Well, great. You're not telling anyone about it. So now how do we communicate what we're trying to get done? So that's a huge headache. Another headache is not training middle management to do everything that's expected from all parties. So middle management oftentimes gets promoted into leadership, A, because they've been there for a long time. So you're loyal, let's give you a promotion. Or B, because you do your current job really well. The current job really well sometimes is no indicator about their ability to lead people. And so you promote these people and they're excited. They got they have a higher income earning potential, and they have a new title. But did you prepare them to really do the job you expected them to do? Oftentimes I hear, I'm a new manager now, what? So one of the pain points that we saw for that is let's create a leadership development roadmap so that when the people get in the door, you know that they already have a way to manage and navigate the system to be able to come into leadership, and that you really coach to leadership potential and not just put them in a position and expect them to automatically poof, you can lead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's understand why if leadership has this headache, Why don't they solve it? Is it because leadership is inefficient? Is it because they are supposed to be the one who can, bring all things together? If someone says, employee says, middle people are the middle management is the problem, the top people say thing is the problem, that it means the leader is the problem because he or she does not know their work. How do you want to look at that? And nowadays, in this today's time, a lot of people talking about the leaders being the problem themselves, and they should be, so they are devising all these new words, the heart-centered leadership and all those things, so servant leadership and all. But why not fix these problems which are there, and it will solve a lot of things? How do you look at it, if we actually want to look at it in this whole backdrop of the great resignation and quiet quitting? There seems to be a problem in efficiency itself.
Right, I agree. So let me just touch quickly on the great resignation, quiet quitting. It is leadership. Absolutely, it's leadership. People, not everybody resigned during the great resignation. People resigned from organizations where they did not feel valued. They did not feel part of the bigger plan. They didn't know where the organization's heading, and they didn't feel as any type of loyalty, like I'm contributing to something bigger than myself. That's a huge reason to quit. The quiet quitting is because they feel oppressed, in that you don't value their voice or their opinion, their experience. You just say do, and you ask nothing more from them. So people just say, fine. If all you want is the bare minimum, all you're going to get is the bare minimum. And quiet quitting doesn't just mean walking out the door. It means staying in your job, doing no more than what the bare minimum requirement is, offering nothing else to the organization than those 8 hours. So I want to put that out there. But to your bigger question, yes, I think it is a problem with leadership not understanding the potential of the biggest asset. So, no bigger than no more than you buy a giant, a very expensive, $200,000-$300,000 car, leave it out on the street, don't cover it, never start the engine, no more than you would nurture that. Don't leave your people, the biggest asset in an organization. Don't leave that unnurtured. You have to grow it. You have to give it all the resources it needs to be productive. People innately want to do their best, so give them everything they need for that, whether it's training, whether it's a better technology to use during their job, whether it's better management. And when it comes to why we don't fix the middle management problem, I think executives believe they've given enough resources, but they really haven't. So it goes to asking those people who are in the roles, what more can we give you for you to be successful? And really listening, and then really giving those resources. Part of the executive blind spot is believing that everybody has what they need, and all I have to do is oversee. Part of that
Right.
blind spot, not looking into yourself to saying, what more as a leader can I do to make these people productive, or that their productivity is enough? Now, we all know as leaders, you have a fiduciary responsibility to all stakeholders in an organization. That includes your employees, investors, the community, to do everything you can to make this business successful. You have that responsibility. That doesn't mean all you do is read balance sheets. It's like getting to the root cause of any issue. What's with the turnover? What's with the low productivity? How come people aren't staying? Why is no one engaged? Like, those are questions you really need to ask. But I'll also tell you this. People really need to executives need to tap into HR. Recently read a study that said 83% of CEOs don't really understand what HR does. Wow, that's huge. That's your biggest partner when it comes to managing your biggest asset. So either you're leaving them at the administrative level thinking all they can do is hire and fire and paperwork, or you don't understand that they have the potential to work beside you with business acumen to understand what it really takes to forecast strategically what your organization needs to be successful. Okay, you want to open a new plant across the country? How many people do you need? What's their education? How do we start recruiting for that? What do you expect in return of investment for those individuals? Like, all of that needs to be laid out. But if you don't tap in to the gold mine that is HR to work beside you and have a seat at that executive table, you're really not utilizing all the tools that you have to be successful.
Right, Yara. So we are talking about the middle management here. We talk about employee satisfaction surveys and all.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they also talk to the mid level management and also find out what is their problem? Is it really their problem? Are they the problem creators? If they have been rewarded for loyalty, where has that loyalty gone after the promotion? I don't think that's the full truth. There is something much more. Is it another way from the leadership of pushing the blame to those people? And employees are also blaming them, and the leaders are also blaming them.
Yes.
And nobody is talking to them or trying to resolve it. So it looks like to be almost like a conspiracy theory against them because they will not speak. They are 35, 40, and they are also worried about their jobs.
Right. So middle management is really who we task to really manage the teams so manage the people. And because of the way that most of them are promoted, just like I talked earlier, just out of loyalty because you've been here or because you did a good job, but really not given any type of preparation or training till after they're in the role, if at all, right? And then the people, they interact only with the middle management, the what I call boots on the ground. So the just the the average everyday employee, they only meet with that middle management. They're the only face of the organization that people have to interact with. So anything good or bad is going to be attributed to that middle management from the bottom up. Now, again, from the top up, a lot of those managers, executives believe they've given people that you're a manager now. You should know what you're supposed to do. Voila, an instant without training. You should already know that. They assume that without really having steps in place for that. The ideal is to build a roadmap from the beginning. So as a person comes into the organization, they know they can take this trail, that trail, or this trail, and this is their end result. If an organization is really trying to be forward thinking, what they'll do is build a roadmap that allows for succession of employees from one step to the next, so that if someone does quiet quit, if someone does resign, retire, God forbid something bad happens, they're not having a gap in productivity, a gap in knowledge. So it should all be part of the same cloth, just woven in between the organization. What happens is a lot of those things are compartmentalized. The people are the middle management problem. The executives, we have to tell the middle management what we want from them. However, we don't give them all the tools they need. I've seen it time and time and time and time again.
Right, Yara. Let's look at it from a HR point of view. The
Absolutely.
HR, you say, if I understand, you talked about how a lot of this leadership does not know actually what the HR does.
Mm-hmm.
Even the employees do not know many a times what the HR does.
That's correct.
And so, but if I understand, the HR talks to employees on a regular basis, and the HR also, the senior management in the HR, they also are in touch with the leadership almost on a daily basis for one thing or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that they never try to tell exactly what they do, what they are there for, how should they be utilized? Because now you are talking about that the HR, HR can be your secret weapon, secret sort of a thing for the leadership and almost bringing in more profit. Where was this idea for so many years? Neither the leadership know it, neither the HR people know it, and so much things have gone down the drain. Help us understand. Was
Okay,
it a
so
deliberate attempt not to have much work? And now, because the HR is almost facing extinction in so they are trying to rebrand themselves as almost like becoming like a profit center, which will bring profit for the organizations.
right. So I think it's historically right. HR was an administrative role, paperwork, right? So those are the people you talk to when you get hired. If you have to, when you do your benefits, those are the people that you traditionally would see. Okay, so and I'll just be frank. If we're going to talk about gender roles in our society, those were also women. Okay, which, as we know, is historically women and men have different roles within organizations. Okay, so with that being said, so that's how it started out. And then as time went on, HR said, oh, wait, there's more we can do. And so they started to try to branch out training, onboarding, some of those other roles that were covered under the HR umbrella, but weren't really tapped into. So as those things happen, again, those are administrative or hands-on roles. But now we start talking about strategic roles. And as we know, historically speaking, HR roles were of women and not men. And I think it was harder for the women who carried an HR role, maybe even with status title, management, vice president, whatever, to get to a seat at that executive table that's primarily held by men. So that was part of it. And just the mere fact of gender sometimes did not lend to you the credibility you should have based on what education experience you have. Okay. So I think that was part of it. Now, I know a lot of times in organization, from a people perspective, the employee perspective, they see HR as part of the establishment, the organization as a whole. So there's a trust factor in there, right? I don't necessarily trust you because you're part of the organization, especially if I have some sort of concern or problem, right? But from an executive standpoint, the mind frame is still set on that administrative role. What more do they bring to this table? So I think it's up to the individual HR people to show what you do bring to the table. I think it's up to the executives to understand what's possible. And I think it's up to the HR people to understand, to be able to articulate their value in any given situation. And I think because of the kind of the box of you only do administrative, it is hard for an HR person to have a voice in an organization where there was never a voice before, because it's seen as being outside your lane. Oh, we do this and this is what you do. But really being articulate about the value that you bring to the organization makes the organization more valuable. And I think that people are just, if you have been in HR maybe for 30, 40 years, right? You don't even know that you might not even be experienced or exposed to the strategic level of HR because you've only been subject to the administrative level. So they might say to you, okay, Yara, today we want you to come sit at our table, and you are breathless because you've never sat at that table and you really don't know what's going to happen, what they're going to expect from you, nor are you prepared to deal with it. So it really has to be the type of roles that individuals' HR perspective take on according to the culture of that particular organization. What do they want and expect from HR? If all they want is paperwork, that's all they're going to get. If they want more of a inclusive role and more of a partnership, that's what they'll get. So it just kind of depends on the organization. Not all organizations are blind to the fact that HR and the way you manage people can be strategic, tactical, or administrative. Not all of them are blind to that, but a large majority kind of are. They're stuck in the way we've always done it.
Right, Yara. That brings me to your book, The Executive Blind Spot, Transforming HR into a Profit-Driving Powerhouse. I thought HR's job was to make the teams perform well, optimum performance. The job of the leadership was also to get the team to perform well, either through the managers or whoever, and also to get the HR to perform to the man. But instead, we are talking about the HR trying to bring in profits. Help us understand then, what do you exactly mean by this?
Okay, so I don't let's be clear. I don't expect HR to drive profits. What I expect is the executives to work with HR so that we can, as an organization, drive profits, right? We need to understand what is your goal. And then from an HR perspective, communicate it to the people. Work with the middle management to get them up to speed so we can create those goals. If it's hiring people, what does that look like? I need you to work with me so I understand everything that you expect. I can get it done. But if I don't know where you're going and I don't know my part in it, then I can't help you be as successful with whatever your goals are as possible. And that's really what it's about. You're not utilizing this tool to its full extent to get everything you should be getting out of it. And by not doing that, you are then leaving money on the table. And you have a
Right. So who?
responsibility to not do that, right? You have a responsibility to not do that.
Right, Yara. So who is this book for? Is it for HR people? Is it for leadership? Is it for employees? How?
Okay, so
What
this,
have you dealt all these problems in your book?
right, the book is for the executives, CEO, C-suite, and business owners. It would also help HR people because they need to know how to articulate the problem to executives. but the main target audience is the executives because they need to be introspective to say, I made a mistake. I'm not using HR like I should. How do I fix this and how do I fix it fast? Right. And so that's really who the audience is of the book is for, owners and C-suite. And then again, it would behoove HR people to read it because they need to know how to articulate it, the problem. If they haven't ever had to do it, if they've never had to move to that next level beyond administrative engagement into strategic or tactical engagement, they need help to articulate like what's the problem and how can I show it to you. There's real life case studies in that book. There are real life KPIs, key performance indicators, along with formulas to show you how you are losing money through cost of recruitment, cost of training, cost of hire, all those things that we're doing over and over again because we're not getting this part right. So, I mean, I think it's a key driver in terms of really turning that balance sheet around once you really understand what you have, what you're working with, and how to measure it.
Absolutely. There's much to learn about all these things, leadership, about employee satisfaction, and everything from you, Yara. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about you, be your client, also learn from your book. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
So they can join us on our website at BNXBA, so BNX Business Advisors, bnxba.com. They can learn more about our organization, the type of consulting and services that we have, more about me as a leader, and then also about the books that we have, the Executive Blind Spot that's out there. It is going to be released on January 30th. So we're just doing pre-sale right now. But we want more than anything the education to be out there. I think we can be so much better. Our world is turning. As we look at it, it's turning, it's changing, it's morphing, and we need to be able to pivot with it and be able to be sustainable and grow and thrive no matter what comes at us. And that's going to be huge when it comes to solidifying your people, their loyalty, and their productivity towards your organization. You need them to be ambassadors for you, so you need their buy-in.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.